Hey everyone, Brendan Snyder here. How are you? Thanks so much for joining me and welcome to another episode of New Music Finds, where I like to collect together all the different things that I've purchased over the past week and present it to you. And I get them from different places like my local record store, but also online retail like Amazon, eBay, and more. I got a cool cross section of stuff here, 15 different items, a couple box sets, some imports, some website only type things, and of course, new releases. And we'll dive into that all in just a bit. But before we get started, if you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things help support my channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by turning on notifications, you're gonna stay up to date on everything going on in the world of music, just like this, with New Music Finds. Getting to see some of the cool stuff that it came out last week, but also some cool finds that I've had just along the way. And so as I said, we're going to kick off with some new releases here. This one here is one that was website only, and you had to pre-order the brand new Neil Young box set in order to get this, a single disc collection of tracks from throughout the different albums that are on it. So Archive Volume 3, 17 CDs, and this has a cool selection of tracks from that. And if you did the pre-order, they sent you this single disc called Takes, and it's the only way that it's available. There will be a 2 LP edition of this that can be bought at the time of release when the full box set itself comes out. But in terms of CD, this will be the only way to get the single disc edition. But a nice, cool way to warm up to it, and I was glad that came in the mail this week. And then actual stuff that dropped this past Friday, August 9th, Alex Lifeson, Victor. This is a reissue of his debut and only solo album, but it came out under the name Victor originally, now being reissued under his name, Alex Lifeson, being titled Victor. Some new art with it as well. Cool write-up on everything explaining it. It's got 4 bonus tracks, but the cool thing about this, more than the bonus tracks, is actually the remix of this. And I think this has a lot better sound today than it did, back when it first came out. That was one of the things that always bothered me about it. I kind of felt that the mix on it was a bit muddy, very much of the 90s, and it was okay at the time, but as years went on from it, and I like what they did with it, where they actually went in and gave the instrumentation more room to breathe. Didn't layer the stuff up so much. Now, I don't know if this was a new release or not. It's a 2024 release, and I couldn't seem to find it anywhere for ordering, but Anthony had it at Sound Exchange when I went in. It's an original master recording of Van Halen 2, one of the MoFi, Mobile Fidelity releases. It is limited numbered edition of it. And the release itself, like I said, I have not seen it. I know that the vinyl version of this came out in 2023, but the CD of this, the date on the back of this says 2024. So I think it might be new release. I just don't know what week it came out and whether it was this past Friday. But when I saw that being my favorite Van Halen album, I needed to get that. And I'm not sure whether I like it more or less than the actual Van Halen remasters, but it does sound really good, and you can turn it up louder and really hear all of the instrumentation very crisp and clean, and it doesn't distort or anything like that. So I need to sit down and put them both on back to back and really check them out for a true comparison, but I have to say this sounds really, really good. And then Jim Pedrick and World Stage, Roots and Shoots. So a cool album that he's doing where he's working with artists that are both new and classic. And so we got the Shoots, the up-and-comers, and the Roots, the classic artists, pairing together with Jim Pedrick, keyboardist and guitarist with Survivor. And you got people like Mike Reno of Loverboy on here, and Toby Hitchcock and other cool artists coming together to make this album. And very much, if you're in you like melodic rock AOR and you like Survivor and other projects that Jim Pedrick has done, these releases that he's done, this is the second one this year. There was an earlier one that came out in January, Volume 1. This is Volume 2. But if you like those, you're going to love that. And then first box set I'm going to show you guys is Torme. So Bernie Torme on guitar under the band name Torme. frontman for Torme was Phil Lewis of Phil Lewis of LA Guns. um, and this here being a box set of that time frame, we get the original album Babylon and Die Young, Die Pretty, or Die Pretty, Die Young album, which is unreleased. I've never been able to find a copy of that on CD. And then you get a live album in there, and then you get 2 releases of demos with a different singer. It's not Phil Lewis, but it does sound very good, does sound like it. So there's a cool booklet that comes with this. It's got a cool write-up and everything that's in it, with some cool archival shots and stuff. And then the albums themselves in cardboard sleeves. Die Pretty, Die Young. So I bought it just for that one there. I haven't checked out the official bootleg live album yet, but I also have been enjoying these 2, Volume 1, Volume 2, called Demolition, which, like I said, does have a different singer, but it does sound like the band Torme. So if you liked the band Torme, you're going to like that as well. But all in all, very cool. 5 CD box set for a very good deal. And those were the new releases from this past week. So I had been getting in more and more. I mean, I'm always getting in at different times to Whitesnake. I own all their stuff. When I say getting more and more into it, just meaning really diving deep into the catalog and re-enjoying and re-exploring it and hearing things I hadn't heard before, that kind of stuff. And so I don't know if it wasn't last week, it might have been the week before, I picked up the unzipped box set. And that was a box set I had steered clear of for some time. Didn't think it was worth it, picked it up, and it turned out to totally be worth it. So then I picked up this one here, Slip of the Tongue, which again, at the time, I didn't think it was worth it. I picked up a 2 CD edition of it. And this one here was the only box set left that I didn't have. And I decided I needed to get it. I needed to fill that void in the collection and have it. And initially, when I started listening to the stuff that was on here, there is a thing called Wagging Tongues Edition, which is really an interview disc. And then it would play the album track in an interview, and then it would play the album track in an interview, and so forth. And I could really care less about the interview, and it's very much of the time, so it's not telling me anything new. But that was a promo disc that was released at the time, and so including it in here, I get it. You know, it's kind of a cool thing to get. I would have wanted that promo disc back in the day. But I didn't really care for that. There's something on here called Evolutions, Demos, Remixes, and Re-Records, which I did like, but it's all different variations, early demos and monitor mixes and different things like that all work together into the one track. And so you get the full album on here plus some bonus stuff done that way. And it's cool to hear, but again, I don't know that I'm going to listen to it all that much. And I listen to some other stuff. There's some sessions, takes, and things on here. Some of it good, some of it very, very down and dirty, you know. But what was cool on here that turned out to be the thing that I thought was the least interesting, or would be the least interesting, and so it was the last disc I put on after playing a bunch of different ones from here, was the thing that was called Monitor Mixes April 1989. That blew my mind because it's before the background vocals, it's before the overdubs, but it's really pristine, and so it doesn't have all the polish on it. I often thought this album sounded more like a Steve Vai solo album than it did a Whitesnake album. And hearing the monitor mixes sounds like a Whitesnake album, and so I actually ended up really, really enjoying that. So this box set, adding it to the collection. And then I wanted a best of that was from the early years, from 78 to 82, before they reinvented themselves as a glam metal band. And I found a Japanese compilation called The Best. And it's got 12 tracks on it. It's released by Polydor and the Sunburst label. And it came out in 1991. And it's got, 2-3 tracks from each of the releases. But it includes on here the songs Fool for Your Love and Crying in the Rain and Here I Go Again, which were the songs later re-recorded, made so popular during the Geffen years, the glam metal years that they did, which is part of this time frame. Fool for Your Love was re-recorded for this album. And so it's kind of like a whole collection from 78 up to 1989, the release of Slip of the Tongue, if you count those songs, even though they're not those versions, that's where I learned them from. So it's a really cool release, and it's definitely the bluesy hard rock era of the band and not the glam metal era. But I picked that up to enjoy. And I also picked up the remastered edition of the debut album, Trouble, that also comes with the Snakebite EP tacked on at the end of it. So I've had this album, I've had the Snakebite EP, so it wasn't anything for that. I just wanted the new remastered quality of these things and the how nice these booklets are and all that sort of stuff. So replacing my Geffen Records releases, although I won't get rid of those because I want to keep those mastered versions of it. Right, and then I picked up some other stuff. I had picked up a Marillion release a few weeks back for my birthday. Then I picked up another one, a remix of that album itself. And then I found this one, Season's End, which I always liked this album, which was, I believe, the first album recorded without the frontman Fish. This is when the new guy, Steve Hogarth, came in. But this is a remix of that album. So I didn't know that they had done that. So when I found that, I had to add that to the collection since I like the album so much. I picked up Smashing Pumpkins Gish, the remastered edition. Again, already having it, but wanting the remastered standalone jewel case edition. Found this one here, Hellstar Burning Star. So the original debut 1984 album that now adds into it the 1983 demo. So James Rivera, frontman, going under a different name back at this time, but it is his band still, and he's still doing it. But great to get this. I had never seen that one available. And when I opened it up, I did find the original album art was on the inside of it. So not sure where this album art comes from, but when I saw that, I knew that I did not have it. And then new guitar player for Deep Purple, Simon McBride, picked up one of his solo albums, found this one. It was called Crossing the Line from 2012. So this point, 12 years back. Definitely more bluesy. If you've got his latest release, like a lot of people do, because it's the only one that's in print, that one is much, much closer to where he would go with Deep Purple, even though Deep Purple is even more rock than that album. This one here, definitely much, much back further into the hard rock blues vein. So if you're into blues guitar playing, you'll probably really enjoy that one. And then I picked these up over the last couple of weeks themselves. Eric Martin Band and Johnny from the Metallic Blue Records label. This one here being the Sucker for a Pretty Face sessions, and this one being just a selection of stuff from these guys that had never been released. But Derek De La Rosa of Babylon AD was in this lineup. So I had picked these up, and I think it's the owner of the record label reached out to me having seen that and let me know that there was some more stuff that was related to that and stuff that's up and coming. And he went ahead and sent it to me. And two releases from 415, and 415 is the band that would go on to become the Eric Martin Band, recording this album here. But they had done two albums under the name 415, never widely released, I think only independently released, whereas Sucker for a Pretty Face, they were signed to Elektra Records. This is the original sessions to that, so different than the album Sucker for a Pretty Face. If you already own that, Rock Candy Records put a version of that out recently. That's a release you can add to it that sounds even better in my opinion. But if you like that and you want more from the Eric Martin Band, 415, two different releases. The debut album that they put out, Area Code 415, which is what the number is from, their local area code was 415, and Boys Night Out. Cool tie-ins and stuff related to those things. And then Benny and the Jets. And so this band here, featuring Benny LaBarge, the frontman of Johnny. But the reason that I was interested in this and why the record label guy told me about it is featuring Troy Luccketta, who was part of the Eric Martin Band. So Troy Luccketta from Tesla on drums, Eric Martin, frontman for Mr. Big. They also have the guitar player from Y&T in here. So a lot of cool tie-ins like that. So this label, very, very cool. And I have done a whole sort of what's new at Metallic Blue Records. If you want to check that out, where I cover all of these and more, talking about how interesting the record label is and these 5 releases and stuff like that. And so I will leave a link to that video in the description. You can check that out. But all in all, I hope you enjoyed these 15 releases, couple box sets, some CDs, things that were ordered from the record label, stuff that came from Neil Young's website, stuff that came off of eBay, stuff from my local store. But all in all, different cool things that I picked up over this past week, and maybe you got turned on to something. Maybe you're going to go out and search something out. I know that I wasn't planning on doing this until I heard someone talking about it, and then I saw one and I said, you know what? I think I got to add it to my collection. So even I get turned on from things that I see on YouTube and from other people's channels and stuff like that myself. All right, everyone, take care, have a good one, and I'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.